Dear friends, have you ever sat alone in your living room, wondering, Lord, why is the world so different now? Maybe the TV is buzzing with voices that don't sound like yours, or your grandkids are texting away, thumbs flying, while you're left holding a cup of coffee that's gone cold. I've been there too, staring out the window at a neighborhood that used to ring with laughter, now quiet except for the hum of someone's leaf blower. It's a strange ache, isn't it? Feeling like the world's moved on, and you're still here, trying to figure out where you fit. That's why I want us to talk about something close to my heart, something I think matters to so many of us as we get older, facing aging with God's strength. Specifically, I've been thinking about Noah, that old soul from Genesis 6, who kept building his ark while the world laughed in his face. Can you imagine? Hundreds of years old, hammering away at that giant boat, knowing God had called him to something bigger than the skepticism around him. We're not alone in this. Friends, God understands the sting of being distanced from family, of feeling underestimated, even by the ones we love most. He's been with his people through it all, and he's with us now. Let's start with a story from the Bible that's been sitting with me lately. Not Noah just yet, but Elijah, that rugged prophet from 1 Kings 19. Picture him out in the wilderness, running for his life after facing down those false prophets. He's exhausted, alone, and, let's be honest, probably feeling pretty forgotten. He sits under a broom tree and says, Lord, I've had enough. Take me home. I don't know about you, but I've had days like that. Days when the phone doesn't ring, when my daughter's too busy to call back, or when I scroll through Facebook and see everyone else's perfect family photos while I'm eating dinner alone. Elijah felt isolated, like his faithfulness didn't matter anymore. But God didn't leave him there. A soft whisper came, not in the wind or the fire, but in the stillness, reminding Elijah he wasn't alone. God saw him, just like he sees us when we feel pushed aside by a world that's too loud, too fast. Now, let me tell you about my Aunt Mary. She's 75, lives out in a little town where the church steeple still pokes above the trees. A few years back, her son unfriended her on Facebook. Can you believe that? She posted a simple verse, Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd." And he commented something snarky like, "Mom, nobody cares about that old stuff." Next thing she knew, he cut her off. She told me she sat on her porch that night, rocking in her weathered wooden chair, tears in her eyes. But instead of firing back a message or letting bitterness take root, she prayed. She whispered, "Lord, help me love him anyway." And you know what? Over time, that prayer softened her heart. She didn't get an apology, but she found peace, a peace that didn't depend on likes or comments. Aunt Mary's like Noah in a way, standing firm, even when the world rolls its eyes. So how we keep our faith strong when we feel underestimated, overlooked, or just plain tired? Let's explore the answer together. So here we are, friends, sitting with this question of how to hold on when the world feels like it's spinning past us. I've been thinking about Noah again. Can you see him there, bent over his workbench? The smell of fresh cut wood in the air? Genesis 6 tells us he was 600 years old when the flood came, but he'd been building that ark for decades, maybe even a century, while folks mocked him. Imagine the patience that took. I bet there were days he wanted to drop his hammer and walk away, but he didn't. He trusted God's promise. And that's where I've been finding some practical lessons, ways to lean into faith when the hurt piles up, especially as we age. One thing that's helped me is praying through pain, and I've learned a trick or two from Jesus himself. Think about him on the cross in Luke 23, bruised, bleeding, and surrounded by scoffers. Yet he prays three things that stick with me. First, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. That's a tough one, isn't it? When my grandson rolls his eyes because I don't get his new gadget, or when a friend stops inviting me out because I slow them down, I want to hold a grudge. But Jesus shows me to pray for forgiveness, not just for them, but for my own heart to let go. Second, he says, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. That surrender. handing over the hurt I can't fix. And third, he reaches out to the thief beside him, offering hope even in his last moments. So here's what I do. I pray for forgiveness, I give it to God, and then I look for one small way to bless someone else. Maybe it's a text to my granddaughter just saying, "Love you." It's not fancy, but it keeps my soul steady. Now, here's something I'd love for you to try. It's a little challenge that's done wonders for me. Grab a pen and paper. Yes, the old-fashioned kind, with that satisfying scratch of ink, and write a letter to someone who's hurt you. Maybe it's a child who's drifted, a friend who's forgotten, or even that younger co-worker who smirked when you fumbled with the new office tech. Pour it all out. The ache, the confusion, the love you still have. You don't have to send it. Sometimes I just tuck mine in my Bible or toss it in the fireplace. But the act of writing, it's like unclogging a drain. I did this once after my neighbor, Tom, made a crack about me being too old to keep up with the garden club. I scribbled out my frustration, how I'd planted those roses with my own hands decades ago, and then I prayed over it. By the end, I wasn't mad anymore. I even left a little rose on his doorstep the next day. He never said a word, but I felt lighter. As you can see, these steps aren't about fixing the world. They're about keeping our hearts open, like Noah did, plank by plank. But is this enough? Let's uncover the final step. Well, friends, we've been walking this road together, haven't we? From Noah's steady hands on that ark to Aunt Mary's quiet prayers on her porch, we've seen how God meets us in the messy, lonely moments of aging. God never promised life would be easy. He didn't sugarcoat it for Noah, standing firm while the skeptics jeered, or for Moses, who at 80 years old was just starting to lead a nation out of Egypt. But what he did promise is to walk with us, every step, just as he did with them. And that's where I find my peace. Not in the world slowing down and notice me, but in knowing he's right here, whispering strength into my tired bones. I think about that a lot these days, especially when the house feels too quiet or when my inbox sits empty. It's tempting to feel like we don't matter anymore, like the younger crowd has taken over with their TikToks and their hustle, leaving us behind. But here's what I want you to hear. You are a small candle in the dark, and your presence alone is a miracle. Think of Noah. He didn't have to argue with the doubters or prove his worth. He just kept building, trusting God's plan. And you? Your prayers, your kindness, the way you still hum those old hymns while washing dishes. It's light, even if no one else sees it. I got a letter from Aunt Sarah, 68, down in Texas, who said, "I cried when my daughter called me old-fashioned, but then I baked her favorite pecan pie anyway. She smiled when she ate it." That's a candle, friends, a quiet, stubborn glow. So here's what I'd love for you to do. Share your story with me. Drop it in the comments below. Maybe it's a time you felt underestimated but kept going, or a moment God gave you peace when you least expected it. I'll read every one, and here's my promise. I'll gift each of you a personalized Bible verse, something to tuck in your heart for the days ahead. And if this little chat has touched you, maybe pass it along to a friend who needs a bit of comfort too, someone who's feeling the weight of the years like we do. You know, as I sit here in my old rocking chair, the one with the creak my husband used to tease me about, I'm reminded of those weathered wooden pews in the church I grew up in, the ones where we'd sing Amazing Grace from handwritten hymnals, voices wobbly but full of heart. We don't need to shout to be heard. We just need to keep showing up like Noah did, trusting that God's got us. You're not alone in this, dear friend. He's building something beautiful through you, even now.